Welcome to the 150th episode of Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Abuse suffered by Rohingya may account to crimes against humanity, says UN. Rights group voice concern as Thai court upholds acquittal in land activist murder case. Police refuse to release Kashmir rights defender despite High Court order. Nepal police arrest and assault Dr. C.K. Raut and his supporters. Indonesian court releases labor activists says police were repressive. Filipino workers in Hong Kong protest against Marcos burial in Hero Cemetery. Sri Lanka grilled over routine torture at UN review. Urgent appeals from Indonesia and Sri Lanka. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm April Wong. This week, Just Asia begins with Burma, where the crackdown on the Rohingya may account to crimes against humanity, says the UN Human Rights Agency. Since October 9th, when 9 border police were killed by Rohingya militants, the Burmese military have been burning Rohingya homes, shooting people and raping women. According to John McKissick of the UN Refugee Agency on the Burma-Bangladesh border, the security forces have been forcing the Rohingya to cross the river into Bangladesh, with the ultimate goal of ethnic cleansing of the Muslim minority. The Burmese government has lodged a protest against the statement. Authorities in Bangladesh have been detaining and repatriating hundreds of fleeing Rohingya, which Amnesty International condemned as a violation of international law. In the past 2 weeks, border guards have prevented more than 1,000 Rohingya from entering Bangladesh by boat. The Rohingya are being squeezed by the callous actions of both the Burmese and Bangladesh authorities, said Champa Patel, Amnesty's South Asia director. Trapped between these cruel fates, their desperate need for food, water, and medical care is not being addressed. Protests denouncing the attacks have been held in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Bangladesh. Many protesters said that Aung San Suu Kyi's silence on this issue is legitimizing the violence and genocide. Former UN Chief Kofi Annan began his week-long trip to Burma on Tuesday, which will include a visit to Rakhine. He has been appointed by Suu Kyi to lead a commission to resolve issues in the state. Next, Thailand's Appellate Court upheld the acquittal of sole suspect accused of killing land rights activist Mr. Chai Bungthonglek in 2015. The court in Surat Thani province cited lack of evidence in its decision on November 28th. Speaking after the court's decision, the Rights Coalition noted the lack of accountability and failed prosecutions in murder cases of land activists in southern Thailand was a matter of increasing concern. Since 2010, 4 activists seeking community land title in the area have been murdered. None of the cases have been solved. On 8th of April 2016, Supong Kansong, a witness in Mr. Chai's murder case and a relative of the victim, was wounded after being shot 8 times. The UN Human Rights Office for Southeast Asia has requested Thailand's Department of Special Investigation to look into this disturbing pattern, stating, "It is important that the government undertakes impartial, independent and thorough investigations in all cases of killings and attempt murder in accordance with Thailand's commitment at its last Universal Periodic Review in Geneva." While the perpetrators of these attacks remain at large, at least 15 human rights defenders in 2016, including 8 women, have faced criminal charges in relation to their human rights and advocacy work. The Rights Coalition urges the Thai government to ensure the safety of all human rights defenders and to drop all criminal charges against them. In India, while a high court has ordered the release of human rights defender Mr. Karan Pavas on November 25th, police have refused to release him. Chairperson of the Asian Federation Against Involuntary Disappearances, Mr. Pervez works in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. On September 14th, immigration officers in New Delhi prevented Pervez from traveling to Geneva to attend the UN Human Rights Council session. The following day, Pervez was arrested by the Jammu and Kashmir police from his home in Srinagar. After being detained for over 2 months, the High Court of Jammu and Kashmir said that Pervez's detention is not only illegal, but the detaining authority has abused its power in ordering his detention. While the court ordered Khurram's release, it took no action against those illegally detaining him. Just Asia speaks to Bijo Francis, AHRC's executive director, for more details.
Well, one cannot really say that the executive magistracy in India is part of the India's judiciary. It is not. An executive magistrate is an officer of the state. He is a civil servant or she is a civil servant, is part of the executive, but provided with certain quasi-judicial, half-judicial authority. But these authorities are quite powerful enough to prevent a person from traveling, to arrest and detain a person, and even to declare emergency in a jurisdiction where the executive magistrate has his or her jurisdiction. That is to prevent people from organizing or to prevent people from coming to public places. This is by virtue of the Criminal Procedure Code of India. It is the remnant, or rather the remaining of what the British left, because the British wanted executive officers at the time, largely British officers, to have the authority, legal authority to prevent people coming together on those days demanding freedom, for example, or against atrocities committed by white officers or the colonizing officers at the time. So that still remains in the Criminal Procedure Code of India. After handing over, or rather after 1947, when the new government came into power, when India became independent, it still continued to be pressed to use by virtue of retaining those provisions in the Criminal Procedure Code. Even now, 25th of November is the day on which the High Court passed the order saying that the authorities have misused the provisions of law and released him from custody. But then the fact is this, that even today he remains in custody because the police has re-arrested him on some other new charge. So this is a game, this is a cruel game that the Indian authorities play, not only with Khurram. Khurram's case became public and it became popularly known because he is a popular human rights defender who is globally known. Whereas there are so many other people who also get arrested and detained, and this cruel game being played by the state against them in numerous number of times in India. So that is why the AHRC is of the position that the claim that India has a justice process is just a claim. It is not something that exists in reality. It is a game, it is an instrumentality of the state, the laws and the procedures with which the state play games, cruel games like this, like what has happened in Khurram's case, against persons whom they want to detain. So if at all, if there is a possibility of improvement of the situation, what the civil society of India and those civil society organizations who are not from India but are interested in justice issues in India should be addressing is the myth, to expose the myth of what is claimed as the justice process in India.
In Nepal, police used excessive force against Dr. C.K. Raut and over 200 of his supporters on November 25th, as they were peacefully commemorating Anti-Racism Day. Dr. Raut and some 73 supporters were arrested by police officers in Danusha district, where Dr. Raut was to give a speech. They were commemorating the day as more than 300 Madhesi had been arrested in Kathmandu on 26 November 2014 for having black-colored skin. In November 2015, 150 Madhesi were arrested from different districts of Nepal's Terai region. According to local human rights defenders, on November 25th, 55 supporters from Nepalganj, 19 from Nawaparasi, 70 from Rupandahi, 7 from Kapilvastu, 50 from Rakhine, 19 from Muran, 7 from Japa, and 13 from Pasa districts were also arrested by the police. In Rupandahi district, the supporters were taken to the district police office, and non-Madesi detainees were told to beat the Madesi detainees. The strategy of using detainees to torture other detainees was devised by police after an increase in torture complaints filed under the Torture Compensation Act. All of the arrested supporters were subsequently released. Moving to Indonesia, the Central Jakarta District Court finally released 23 labor activists, 2 public lawyers and 1 university student on November 22nd. They were charged after participating in a protest against the government's new wage regulation in front of the presidential palace on 30th of October 2015. The judgment releasing them stated that there was insufficient evidence to strengthen the indictment submitted by the public prosecutors. Moreover, the judgment also stated that the activists had protested in accordance with the law, while the police had taken a repressive approach against them. The judgment is good news for Indonesian civil society, since there are many fabricated cases against local activists, human rights lawyers, and land rights defenders. Furthermore, this judgment can also be used to strengthen the labor movement's demand to cancel government regulation number 78 of 2015 on wages, which in fact favors business owners and companies rather than laborers. Next, Filipinos in Hong Kong staged a Marcos No Hero protest at the Philippines consulate against the burial of former Philippines dictator Ferdinand Marcos at the Libugan Bayani. According to the organizing group Bayan, Marcos' burial at the Manila Heroes Cemetery is an affront to the tens of thousands of Filipinos who were killed, disappeared, tortured, and raped during his regime, as well as all the Filipinos who continue to pay for the debts incurred by his regime. The Hong Kong protest on November 25th was in support of the Black Friday protest held across the Philippines. In Manila, some 20,000 people marched to denounce the burial as well as the political comeback of the Marcos family. Hong Kong Filipinos called on President Duterte to do better than adhere to the demands of the Marcoses and to rectify the wrongs and shortcomings of the past regimes in pursuing prosecutions of the Marcoses, recovering the riches they robbed from the nation, and giving justice to the victims of the brutal martial law. Sri Lanka has been called to account for allegations of torture by the United Nations Committee Against Torture, currently in session in Geneva from November 7 to December 7. Addressing the committee at its 5th periodic review, the Sri Lankan delegation, led by the Attorney General Jayanta Jayasuriya, said that Sri Lanka has conducted measures over the last 2 years in order to fully investigate torture accusations. He also reiterated Sri Lanka's zero-tolerance policy on torture. While the Sri Lankan police admitted they tortured 30 people from 2011 to 2014, the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission said that 2,210 people were abused. According to Philip Disanayaka of the Right to Life Human Rights Center, this indicates that torture is a routine method used to force confessions from suspects. Meanwhile, Father Nandana Manatunga, head of the Human Rights Office in Kandy Diocese, said that although they have requested the government to indict torture perpetrators, but nothing has happened even after the change of government. The Human Rights Commission further reported that they received 413 complaints of police torture in 2015. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features 2 cases from Indonesia and Sri Lanka. In Indonesia, Forced evictions have been ongoing in West Java to facilitate the development of the West Java International Airport. The latest evictions took place in Sukamulya village, Kertajati subdistrict, Majalengka regions. Local government supported by the police forcibly evicted the Sukamulya villages. Previously, 10 other villages in Kertajati were effectively disposed. In Sri Lanka, the manager of the Puhurugola estate in Taladenia Police Division was illegally arrested, detained and forcefully evicted by the Special Investigation Unit of the Kandy Headquarters Police Station. According to the victim, police were influenced and directed by a member of parliament, Mr. Butika Patirana. He and one of the estate owners accompanied the police at all times. The police further filed several fabricated cases against him, preventing him from availing of his legal rights. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on this and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.allc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.